Welcome to Being Intrepid, where we share practical insights from leaders who are shaping the future of learning. I'm your host, Sam Herring. Over the past couple decades, I've been building and leading learning companies that help people grow and organizations thrive. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Marci Paino, Chief Learning Officer at Cisco. Cisco is a worldwide technology leader that is revolutionizing the way organizations connect and protect in the AI era. Marci has built an impressive career as a learning leader at iconic organizations like Accenture, American Express, Western Digital, prior to taking the helm to lead learning at Cisco. So Marci, welcome to Being Intrepid.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So Marci, a lot of people kind of end up in the corporate learning space, right? You're one of the few corporate learning leaders who's intentionally built your career in organizational learning. And you started this out kind of in the beginning in your undergraduate studies. So tell us what inspired you to become a learning professional.
Yeah, so as you said, I actually stumbled into this profession in undergrad. I actually went to undergrad for politics with a math minor and quickly
Okay.
learned that the creative side of my brain was not being tapped enough. And so took an exploratory class in the major of organizational communication, learning, and design. And I never really looked back from there. So I switched my majors, I switched minor into marketing and PR, and really explored this world, which is kind of instructional design. I knew that I wanted to go deeper into the school of practice. And so I went straight from undergrad into grad school and had the opportunity to study under Allison Rossett at San Diego State. And from there, just, have, like you said, built my career in the space in talent development, talent management, and have really explored all of the different facets of learning, whether that be actually creating it or leading teams that are really driving innovation in this space. So it's been a really amazing ride so far.
Incredible. And, Allison was one of the first people I met when I came into the industry as well. So one of those giants in our space. So what an opportunity to study with her.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
So Marci, in our conversations, you've described Cisco's vision for learning as really being a driver for innovation. And I would say that's more than a casual aspiration because you actually report into Cisco's global innovation officer. And I haven't, cataloged all the major chief learning officers out there, but that may be unique among global companies. So can you tell us about Cisco's vision for innovation and how you see learning as a catalyst for innovation?
Yeah, so we see learning kind of at the center of our business's success, but also one of the key components of Cisco's purpose is powering an inclusive future for all. And so when we look at our full spectrum of learners, we are really servicing students, higher ed, into
Mhm.
the corporate learners that are our employees. And so our vision is to bring that collective thought leadership in the learning space together under one umbrella so that we serve that full spectrum of internal and external learners with our world class, cutting edge learning experiences. And so we obviously have built a reputation around certifications, and we see our ability to expand upon that as we think about new ways of learning and leading and working in the AI era.
Fantastic. And one of the things I know we've talked about too are that there's these underlying skills that and behaviors that enable innovation, and these things can be learned. So, can you share some examples of how you're focusing learning to develop Cisco's innovation capacity? What are the next products? What are the next things that you hope to bring to market, and how is learning helping unlock that innovation for Cisco as a company?
Yeah, our chief product officer, G2, likes to talk about us being one of the world's largest startups. And so if you think about the kind of mindset and skill set that goes into being a startup, we really started at, okay, what are the new ways of working that we need to embrace as a company. And so we worked very closely with our ELT to define new company guiding principles. And at the core of those guiding principles are new ways that we are going to work so that we can drive experimentation, fail fast to learn faster, where we can play to win and really work together in a very collaborative way, have very real direct feedback conversations, and where we can drive durable growth and really look at really showing up as one Cisco so that we can serve our customers with solutions that genuinely solve their problems, but also provide experiences that they love. And so together we have to look at our organization as one learning unit and really embracing these new ways of working. Of course, we're quite large, and so you have to think about how do you embrace those mindsets at scale, and learning is at the center of all of that. And so we need to teach our employee base a new skill set that helps them to embrace this new way of working, this new mindset around agility and adaptability and persistence.
That's phenomenal. I'm curious, like, your CEO has become this really strong advocate of embedding learning into the guiding principles. Just tell us a little bit about how that happened. Like, I don't know that that's always, you look across value statements, guiding principles, you don't always see that. What do you think it is that inspired that for your CEO and the ELT?
So I think there's a combination of things that transpired. We did a lot of employee listening, and so we went out and kind of heard the sentiment of our workforce, and then we did the ELT kind of interviews and brainstorming and ideation hand in glove with them, and then we brought in kind of external benchmark as well. So we were working with kind of three sets of data as we look at kind of the market. From an ELT perspective, if I'm being completely transparent, not a lot of convincing was needed. I think that they all see the fact that the skills that we need to develop are changing at a pace that we need to get ahead of. If we're going to be able to drive innovation as a company, then we need to have the right skills to do that. And those skills, especially on the technical side of the house, are changing faster than ever before. And so that kind of rally cry, it wasn't something that needed kind of deep influence or connection with the ELT. It was a matter of kind of showing them the data and then kind of putting together what that vision and North Star is going to look like for us as a company moving forward, and co-creating that with them, and so that they could feel their voice as a part of it. And then they are the advocates and the champions of these guiding principles in everything we do. Our company-wide all hands to new learning experiences that we're rolling out, and having our CEO champion them by opening it up with an opening keynote, for example. And so we're seeing that level of advocacy and championship just very organically and naturally come to life.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is actually a really natural segue to a conversation around the broader role that Cisco plays and that you play in the ecosystem around developing skills, AI skills for the future. So one of the interesting things about your role, Marci, is you have this internal role of chief learning officer for the employees within Cisco, but there's this larger role that you play a critical role in the AI-enabled ICT Workforce Consortium, which is exploring AI's impact on the information and communication technology roles. So, what are the new skills that need to be developed? What are the roles of the future, and so on? So, tell us about this consortium and research that you've been leading, and what are you learning now about AI's impact on these ICT roles and skills?
Yeah, thanks for that. So the AI Workforce Consortium was something that came as an action to our CEO's time on a talent and growth task force under former Secretary of Commerce, Raimondo. And so we essentially took a leadership position of bringing together the other top tech companies. So think IBM, Intel, Google, Microsoft, to really come together and study the impact of AI on the workforce. And so the first report was launched last July, and we studied the top 50 most in demand ICT roles in the industry. This year, we've just launched last week a whole new set of research and accompanying resources to help organizations really prepare for adoption of AI skills. And so, what we saw kind of predicted out was that 92% of those 50 jobs that we studied were going to experience a moderate to a high level of transformation based off of the onset of AI. And then studying the data a year later, we saw exactly that trend happening. So
Mhm.
we see that AI is now essential to about 78% of the 50 roles that we studied this year. This year, we expanded our research. So we studied last year the US and EU. This year,
Mhm.
we studied the G7 economies.
Okay.
And we looked at kind of the top 40 ICT roles, but we also looked at the top 10 support roles. So
Okay.
the corporate support functions that you can think of, like digital marketing specialist or learning and development specialist,
Yeah.
so that we could really kind of showcase a more holistic view of the demands of AI coming into the workforce and what that will mean for our different job sets. So it's not just the technical jobs that we're seeing are needing these AI skills, it's the everyday support functions as well. And so we wanted to study that as a consortium. We also studied different career levels and kind of the skills that we're seeing as being kind of most prominent in those areas. And so what we saw was that kind of early in career were really the very highly technical, deep expertise and
Hmm.
specialization type of skills. And then as you get kind of mid career, you're seeing a lot more of the types of skills where you have to kind of be able to translate the technology into strategy execution. And
Yep.
so it's a little bit more of that kind of making sure that you have both the deeply human and those
Hmm.
technical skills needed. And then the higher, more tenured career levels, we're seeing a lot more around strategy and governance and risk management. And
Yeah.
so, being able to kind of look at those skill sets and then use that to kind of influence and inform the learning programming that we do internally is highly important. So we released this new research, and then with that, we have a full catalog of learning recommendations that is
Okay.
searchable on the site. So there's over 200 curated from all of our partner companies. And we also have offered a skills glossary. So our intent is to start to give some standardization around how we
Hmm.
define AI skills in the marketplace. And then we created an AI workforce playbook that is intended to provide some frameworks and best practices around how to drive AI integration and adoption within your organization. And so all of these deliverables are available within our website as well.
It's just fascinating. I really thought that was interesting what you had to say about these foundational AI technical skills, and as you move up the ladder to the mid to the senior levels, it becomes more about leading, leading change, leading AI. I was looking at the report earlier today. I saw things like AI ethics and strategy, AI governance. So those kinds of combinations are fascinating. I'm curious. Marci, when you think about those learning offerings, do you see any, when you were compiling those 200 different learning offerings, did you see any gaps in the market space right now that you think might be unfilled with these new skills? For example, AI and ethics. Are there things out there that you think like, wow, that really needs to be solved today? I'm just curious if that's come up.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the biggest gap we saw earlier on in the year was around AI upskilling for the everyday worker.
Okay.
So a lot of the programming is deeply technical and really goes into
Mm,
large language models and the very kind of deeply technical skills that are needed to be
yep.
successful in those
Yep.
ICT roles. But
Yep.
the everyday user and or leader doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily know where to start.
Yes.
And so we're seeing that kind of at both ends of the spectrum on the everyday user side of things, but then on the highest level of executives, our board of directors, for example, and looking at not our own, but like externally boards and their
Yes.
ability to look at what is their AI strategy and how does it
Yes.
fit into their company strategy and where do you start, right? And so what does
Right.
that look like by way of making sure you have the right governance and, um, you know, how do you securely and ethically adopt AI in today's world. And that's sort of what we were looking at as kind of in those spectrums. We see a lot in the by
Interesting.
way of the technical. But then, of course, in the technical space, there's gaps related to skills that have never existed before.
Right.
Right. And so as
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
see that the AI skills are changing so quickly, the
Yep.
learning isn't necessarily able to keep pace with how quickly the skills are changing. And so that's,
Yeah.
a big part of what we're trying to do as a collective unit is be able to offer up the learning programming that is needed for the workforce.
Yeah, fascinating. On those skills upskilling for the everyday worker, I imagine there's some interest and need to contextualize that for, like you said, for the marketer, for the L&D specialist. And what you said about the board is fascinating. I was having a conversation with a CIO of a major company last week, and one of the things he shared was that sometimes when you get to those really senior levels, it's almost it's people expect you to know, people expect you to have this foundation. So if you're a board member, like, how do you do upskilling for a board when you're a board member of a public company, right? So, but everybody's got to start somewhere. So doing so in a way that makes it safe, to learn continuously, no matter where you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Fascinating. So one other question for you on this, Marci, I'm really curious to understand is you've been leading this research across the industry. Um, from these insights you've gathered, how are those insights helping you then apply that back to your internal learning strategy? What a gold mine of information that you've gathered. Like, so how are you using it to advance learning at Cisco?
So it's been a really nice symbiotic relationship because we have the ability to learn from the collective intelligence of the top tech companies, but then also we're able to share best practices that we're recognizing ourselves. And so one area in particular that we are doing, we're leading the way, I think, on is around skills intelligence. And so we are working with Skyhive by Cornerstone to basically create they have a quantum model, but it combines external data with our own internal data to then basically allow us to get deeper insights around what skills do we have, what skills do we need,
Okay.
and what do we forecast needing
Yep.
12, 18, 24 months out so that we can start to get much more surgical about the way that we develop our learning programming and also enable talent movement across our organization. So
Okay.
by moving towards this more skills-based approach, we're able to upskill and reskill our workforce for jobs that don't even exist today
Yep.
because we're really honing in on the labor market data that's showcasing us the skills. We used that same data to drive the report findings, and so
Okay.
the two things kind of go hand in glove. We also, as I mentioned, around really looking at the everyday user, that was an area that we saw as a gap, and
Okay.
so we developed an AI for everyone learning
Okay.
experience here that is very fit for purpose for Cisco because Cisco
Okay.
has our own AI tools that we want to embrace, and
Got
we
it.
want to do that by giving kind of a well-rounded learning experience that is not just learning the technical side of things, but showcasing our new guiding principles in
Okay.
action as you're using those new tools. And so the experience is intended to basically provide what are the deeply human skills that you need to be working with AI at the same time you're learning the technical skills, just as you would interact in your everyday lives. And so it's really creating experiential learning and bringing it all together for our employees in a way that we've never done before.
Amazing, amazing. Could you give us an example of the human side of that? I'm curious. We talk a lot about the underlying skills that are necessary on the technical side. Can you give us an example of a human skill that you're emphasizing in that could be around that AI for everyone or another example?
Yeah, so some of the skills that came out from the research report are ones that we're very focused on around communication, collaboration, creative problem solving, learning agility. So learning how to learn and learning
Yep.
as a daily habit is sort of embracing that and seeing learning as more than just sitting down and clicking through an online course.
Yep.
Right. So like embracing the mindset that you're actually learning through experimentation, learning through different communities of practice with others who have expertise and experience to share with you. So that kind of community approach is so important as well. I think there's also, human skills around persistence and agility and adaptability that are really important for us as we think
Okay.
about kind of how do we think about the smartest way to use AI in our everyday workflows. And then there's the whole human in the loop component, right? So
Right.
whatever output you get back, whatever input you put in requires a human, and whatever output you get back requires you to validate and to, make sure that you're kind of putting your own stamp on it all, right? And so there's an element of that human brain that has to come into play to validate any work that AI does.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. Yeah, we have an upcoming guest, I think, who's going to join us, and it's going to talk about the meta skill of learning to learn. So it's a great example. We've had many people on the podcast talk about leadership, so I love that. I love that framing, the way you've pulled that together, and in the research too. Um, so you mentioned a tool, Skyhive, you're using on the skills side to forecast skills needed. I'd love to hear more about other ways that you're exploring maybe some AI capabilities in the learning. And how are you using AI to amplify learning? Maybe some things around coaching or reflection or role plays, or what are you excited about? What are you seeing out that you're excited about? What are you playing with? What do you see for the future of AI in learning?
Yeah, so there's a wide spectrum of ways that we are experimenting with AI today. So we kind of like to think about it around how can we use AI to help us automate some of the
Mhm,
kind of
mhm.
routine rote tasks. But
Yep.
on the flip side, how do we use AI to create experiences that are much more experiential and
Yep.
that are much more in the flow of work and that
Mhm.
are much more practical, that you can kind of take what you learn and immediately put it into practice? And so
Yep.
we're seeing the ability to experiment with things like virtual reality, extended reality, to do simulations that the
Okay.
AI helps us to build it to be very personalized for the individual who's going through that learning experience. And
Yep.
so we're able to do some things that we've never been able to do by way of making it super relevant and personalized to the end user
Okay.
and practical and real world based. And so that's some of the ways that we're kind of experimenting with new tools. Of course, we're also using, AI in the creation of our learning experiences. So as we create
Yeah.
videos and et cetera. One of the cool things that one of our AI engineers created was actually a model that helps us to run the content through basically an engine to say, is this still statistically valid? The data that we're showing, has the content changed? And where do
Mm,
we need to keep it updated? And so everyone has
mm.
this kind of like quandary right now around how do we keep the learning up to date when it's changing so frequently. And so this model kind of
Yeah.
helps us, pump the content in to say, hey, this isn't relevant anymore, or hey, we need to update this. And so it's the first
Okay.
experiment that we've done of this nature, and it's actually for our AI board of directors programming
Okay.
that we put
Okay.
together. And so we basically said we need to make sure that whatever we're putting out there is on the leading edge of what's happening in the space. And so that was a really cool way that we experimented with it. One other example I'll give is the newest learning experience that we just launched. We launched a whole new learning brand
Okay.
here at Cisco that is called Edge Up, and it's all about kind of skilling at the edge of innovation and thinking
Mm,
about your skills at the edge of innovation. And one of the first learning experiences that we launched was a concept called labs. And so there's a people leader lab, there's a all employee lab, and then there's a team lab. And it's a three-part connected experience where we've basically embedded AI into every facet of it. And so in advance of the lab, we give them a prompt that they put into our instance of ChatGPT, and it gives them a series of questions to answer. And then we
mhm.
take the reflections and that data, anonymize it, aggregate it, and use AI to basically synthesize and infer the insights that we're getting to then basically input that into the content design of the lab experience. And then when we're live in a live broadcast, we have the ability to basically experiment together as an organization And so we do this live broadcast, and we have a graphic illustrator who's, basically putting everything into a beautiful infographic. But at the same time, we're asking the audience to ideate and brainstorm with us, and we're building kind of that catalog of knowledge together. And then we're able to then take all those insights and then leverage it to create micro burst learning content that is a follow up to that learning experience. So we're basically embracing the mindset of experimentation and the utilization of AI in the end to end design and delivery of the learning experience.
Love that, Marci. And what I'm hearing is this kind of listening. It's using learning as kind of listening at scale across your workforce and gathering insights to then drive the creation of learning, and collecting that wisdom. So that is phenomenal. Love what you're doing there. So kudos to you. Thank you for sharing that. So let's kind of bring this to a close with kind of crystallizing your wisdom. You have shared so much today about what you're driving, with this connection between learning and innovation at Cisco. So reflecting on your experience using learning to drive culture innovation, what's one practical, tangible piece of advice that you would share with other learning, talent leaders, innovation leaders, perhaps, who are embarking on similar efforts?
I think the biggest thing for us is anchoring our learning strategy into our business strategy.
Yep.
So as we think about kind of Cisco's strategy and purpose and really understanding what each of our EL team members is looking to drive forward by way of innovation in whatever domain they lead, and then making sure that the learning strategy then anchors to that is
Yep.
of the utmost importance of it all. And I think that kind of getting that partnership with the business is really important. So as we think about the design and delivery of these learning experiences, like the one I just mentioned, the labs experience, we did that with other business leaders, right? So we did storytelling directly from the business. We heard from them what they're doing and how they're embracing new ways of working. And then we also invited, business leaders to kind of co-anchor the live broad stream so that we could hear from their practical knowledge, right? And so that level of business relevancy is so important in order for learning to help drive business growth and innovation. I think the other piece that is really important for us as learning professionals is to really make sure that we embrace the design thinking and agile way of working. So really intimately understanding who the end user is that you're designing an experience for. So who is your customer, and really understanding kind of what is their world of work and what are their pain points. And then being able to use an iterative approach to test and learn. And I say this all the time to my team and to my organization, is that we need to role model the very behaviors we're asking the rest of the company to role model. And so that might mean we launch what we call a minimal lovable product, an MLP, right? Before it's perfect, so that we can then collect insights and feedback from our customer so that we can then continuously improve upon that experience. And so those two things to me they go hand in glove, right? Because you have to constantly be listening to your business and making sure that you're showing up for them. But you also have your customer, right? It is your employees. And so you have to make sure that you're designing learning experiences that meet them where they're at.
Yeah, I love that. And then and walking the talk, like demonstrating the values, demonstrating that learning isn't this other thing. It's like you're going to demonstrate how the values of speed and responsiveness and iterating and innovation, right? So that's fantastic.
I think there's also a component too of being more agile as an organization. It's not just about speed. There's a quality component too, because you're constantly collecting insights and feedback, and that data helps then fuel and shape how you continuously improve upon what you're delivering and offering. So I think I want to make sure that in the AI world, we spend a lot of time talking about productivity and speed, but there's this other component around quality and quality of experiences that we really can capitalize on with the use of AI.
Right. Well, and in the lab example, you've demonstrated that kind of listening at scale and bringing those insight in, and that's not just. I mean, there's been so much. I mean, not to characterize some of the learning innovations out there that have been focused on. It's just like, hey, take your PDF and push out a course. With AI, it's like, okay, like that's speed and efficiency, but is it meeting the learner? Is it
That's right.
bringing their insights? So I really love that you're demonstrating these innovations and doing some amazing work. So Marci, thank you for being so generous with your time, your insights today. I know our audience has taken away a ton from the wisdom you've shared. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I really had a great time.
Absolutely. So, to our audience, if you enjoyed today's episode, you can follow or subscribe to Being Intrepid wherever you get your podcasts. You can go to our website and find links there as well. Also, if you plan to be at DevLearn in November, I'll be podcasting there live and would love to meet you. Come by and say hello. Also, as a Being Intrepid listener, I'm pleased to share that DevLearn has extended a conference discount. So if you haven't gotten your signed up for your registration yet, you can input the code Intrepid and you'll receive a discount when registering. So that's it. That's a wrap. Until next time, keep asking the hard questions, chart your own course, and keep on learning. Thank you.